to advance into the global finals.
Yeah, of course, Azul Garcia Griego waiting in the wings in the losers bracket finals. I'm sure Azul is ready to go against either of these Pikachu and Zekrom decks with his Urshifu VMAX deck. But I'm excited, Ethan. Let's go ahead and get down to the game and see how this mirror match is going to play out. And an ever important coin flip here, as both of these players ideally want to go second.
It looks like Jeremy will be able to go ahead and start things out going second. I'm sure, again, Electrify, such a powerful attack on that first turn of the game, as it looks like for David, has a pretty solid hand opening up, has some abilities to maybe dig a little bit through the deck with something like that Dedenne Change as well. Such a powerful ability in the Pokemon trading card game, as Jeremy has that optimal starter in the Bolt Hunt V. We even see another copy of it in his hand, as action's going to be on David. Again, going first, you are at a disadvantage, right? You don't necessarily have the exact pop-off turn that Jeremy would have, right? You don't get that turn 1 Electrify, but it is still important. David really wants to get this turn 1 attachment and is going to dig for it here with Dedenne Change and finds a bunch of energies as well as some cards next turn to allow him to go through his deck a little bit more, right? Dig for those cards and hopefully get a powerful setup.
Yeah, and ideally, whenever you're going first as the Pikachu and Zekrom deck, you really want to try to set up a turn 2 full blitz, which is something that it looks like, as long as David can find like a switch or something like that, you know, he'll have to go for a Dedenne most likely next turn. He's in a reasonable spot to be able to do that. Also, something interesting we definitely need to note, we saw David right away discarding that Mewtwo and Mew. Now, Mewtwo and Mew can be a really key card in this matchup if your opponent is utilizing their Mewtwo and Mew. If you can create a turn where, you know, you can set it up to get a one-hit KO on an opposing tag team, but it's almost like a little game of cat and mouse, right, where you don't want to put a Mewtwo in play first, though it is one of the more powerful options in your deck. So I'll be interested to see how both of these players kind of navigate that exact situation. When does the Mewtwo come down? Does it come down at all? And how do they kind of get through that situation?
Yeah, looking at Jeremy's prizes, I believe prized 4 lightning energy. I only saw 5 in the deck and has 1 in the hand. That's gotta hurt, right? You want to get those energies in play with Full Blitz, with that Electrify attack. That's gotta be tough, Chip, but looking at these lists, right, they are playing the same concept, but it's not the exact same 60 cards. A really interesting inclusion in David's list is that 1 copy of Fan of Waves, opting to not play something a little bit more, I guess, common in this deck, right? Not playing those 2 copies of Team Yellowguard. Opting for Fan of Waves is a good way to disrupt some things like that Speed Lightning energy that both players are playing 4 copies of. As we see, Jeremy has an excellent start. Electrify will be able to put some more energy in deck, but Chip, is it going to be hard maybe for Jeremy to get a lot accelerated when there's only 2 more Lightning energy left in the deck?
It definitely could be, and Jeremy's going to need to start trying to take prizes here pretty quickly, I think, to get some energies out. I mean, having 3 energies on 2 different tag team Pokemon is usually pretty good, so as long as Jeremy can make that happen, should be just fine. You mentioned the Fan of Waves from David's list, and I think that's actually something that could be a huge card in this matchup. If you can get a turn where you can combine like a Team Yell Grunt with a Crushing Hammerheads and a Fan of Waves to shuffle back in a Speed Lightning energy, put it on the bottom of your opponent's deck, I mean, that could really set Jeremy back big time. So even though David is going second here, or excuse me, going first here, a little bit of a disadvantage normally in this mirror match, I think David's got some pretty solid comeback cards to have that option.
Absolutely. It's going to be really important to see how these players traverse the matchup. We've said it time and time again. It's really important for who applies pressure first in this match, who gets that first hit onto a big tag team Pokemon, as David is going to go ahead and search out that Crobat V Dark Asset, going to fill the hand up to 6 cards, excuse me, going to draw 5 cards off of that. Finds a few interesting cards, but maybe not exactly what David would want to search for here. Has the research, but there's a lot of crucial pieces in this hand. Wants to save the tag switch to pull out something like a Mewtwo Mew out of nowhere. Great Catcher, an awesome inclusion to maybe bring something up. And we are actually going to see the Great Catcher not get played there. Maybe could have brought up that Pikachu and Zekrom on the bench, but maybe wants to make it a little bit harder for Jeremy to get that into the active next turn, as we do see the Cherish Ball will be able to search out a GX Pokemon. Does have that Raichu and a Alolan Raichu in the hand, but Chip, besides that, what can David really do here? It doesn't look like his hand is too explosive.
Yeah, and it looks like David also prized the 2nd copy of Dedenne GX, so not going to have an option as far as drawing more cards. You can't get off the Electrify here. That's exactly what David wanted to do with this attachment going to the Bolton V, and it's just not something he's going to be able to pull off, unfortunately, thanks to the cards that he prized. Was not able to find an Air Balloon, was not able to find a switch, and cannot dig any farther.
That is a big miss here for David. Yeah, really wanted to get off that Electrify. You need to keep pace up in this matchup. If you can't get energies into board, then this Pikachu and Zekrom deck can run away if you're not putting pressure onto Boltund. Bolt Storm, obviously, such a powerful attack with so many lightning energy in play. Hits for massive amounts of damage. I think David, just trying to think about maybe potential plays for next turn, is going to just go ahead and pass things over to Jeremy. Jeremy's got an excellent start. And like you said, having that first attack into a tag team, so crucial here, Chip. You start applying pressure, right? You could set up for knockouts later on in the game, as we do see that Mewtwo and Mew get grabbed. And yeah, Jeremy's just going to be content hitting for a solid 130 damage off that Bolt Storm.
Yeah, this is an open deck list tournament, so Jeremy is totally aware that David only plays the 2 copies of Mewtwo and knows that David does not have any way to bring them back. So since David has chosen to go ahead and discard both copies of Mewtwo, Jeremy feels very safe putting his own Mewtwo in play, and that is such a versatile attacker as it can utilize both Tandem Shock and Full Blitz, you know, copying either the Raichu and Alolan Raichu or the Pikachu and Zekrom. David finally able to find the switch. It was the top deck, so just 1 card away from being able to pull off the Electrify last turn. David is definitely on the back foot here. We'll have to see if he's able to fight back and what exactly he can do to try to make a comeback here.
Yeah, the first thing is going to be getting some lightning energy into play, either with Electrify or with some other attacks. As you see, David is going to fill that bench up, will not be able to utilize that Tapu Koko Prism Star with that bench full, right? You need to have that bench space to utilize Tapu Koko, as we do see that research come down, finds a couple of cards. Crushing Hammer here could be big, but does flip tails. So no energy going to be removed, off of Jeremy's side. As yet, David's just going to have to go for Electrify, but this just feels so slow. You're getting Electrify off your 3rd turn in the game. You really want to be getting that off your 2nd turn. If you're going first, you can even get it off as soon as your 1st turn. It just feels like so little pressure, as we could see Jeremy go for something like a Full Blitz, could also maybe grab the Tapu Koko. This Boltund is getting pretty close here, Chip, to being able to get a knockout on the opposing Boltund. I believe if Jeremy can get 2 lightning energy in the discard pile, as well as an attachment, I believe that Boltund will be hitting for 220 damage.
Yeah, that would be just enough. That's exactly what Jeremy needs to do. It can be a little tough to do. You've already played a couple of your discarding cards like the Quick Balls, the Radar, stuff like that. So not really, maybe having a little harder of a time to get the 2nd lightning energy down, but it's definitely something you could reasonably go for here. Also something to note, I noticed looking last turn through David's deck, actually prized that Tapu Koko Prism Star, which is such a key card, not only for this deck just in general, but also just for this matchup. So it looks like Jeremy is actually going to go ahead and take a different line here, go with the Boss's Orders. Of course, could Boss's Orders and take the knockout on that Pikachu and Zekrom that is damaged, but maybe just getting a hit on 2 different tag team Pokemon is pretty good here.
Yeah, I think Jeremy can even set up a play to win the game the following turn, right? Can pressure this active with Full Blitz, and then from there, throw those 3 lightning energy onto that active Pikachu and Zekrom, and I mean, it's just the Boss's Orders, which we see in his hand away from taking this game, could take a huge 6 prize turn. We see that the power of Tag Bolt to take these big prize turns and really just secure the game at this point.
Yeah, sometimes it feels a little risky to throw all of these energies onto an active Pikachu and Zekrom, but I mean, Jeremy should know, based on David's list, that there's really nothing that threatens this to be knocked out right away. The only problem could potentially be the fact that you would have to draw into one of your remaining speed lightning energies. So that might be what Jeremy is a little hesitant about here. Is he really willing to bank the rest of this game on the fact that he can draw one of those remaining speed lightnings next turn?
Yeah, and the other thing to note as well, 4 lightning energy in the prizes. So assuming there were a little bit less in the prizes, right, could be a little bit safer. There is the potential for David to play some cards again, like Crushing Hammer. That could definitely put Jeremy on the back foot and force him to find even more cards as David's going to start things out. Has a few options of Boss's Orders of his own, but I really think David wants to apply pressure to the main threat on the board. But it looks like actually eyeing up Boss's Orders, we could actually see David potentially take a knockout onto this bench Boltund, but it's actually going to go ahead and chase down this Mewtwo and Mew. Full Blitz going to deal 150 damage. This could be great here for Jeremy, especially if there's something like that Tapu Koko Prism Star could find that last energy as well. We can see there is the Quick Ball in hand, so this is going to be big. And that's it. Switch here. I believe if Tapu Koko is in the deck, which it is, that's going to be the game here. So yeah, Tapu Koko gonna get grabbed off of that Quick Ball. Dance of the Ancients gonna accelerate those 2 lightning energy. Only has 1 in the discard, but Chip, 1 is enough here.
All we need.
There's the switch. Yeah, he's got it.
There we go. Full Blitz, Tag Bolt coming down. Going to deal 200 damage to the active and then 170 damage to that benched Pikachu and Zekrom, taking the legendary 6-prize turn. Incredible play from Jeremy, able to masterfully set that up. Even with having 4 Lightning Energies prized, it can be difficult to get a quick Tag Bolt like that whenever you have that many energies prized. Jeremy was able to manage the resources, make it happen, and it won him game number 1.
100% Chip. It's hard, right, when you prize those key cards that you want in the matchup. There's not much you can do besides taking prize cards, and didn't even have to take prize cards. Was just able to secure that game out. Excellent play from Jeremy. Going into game 2, again, this is a mirror match, so there's no crazy, I guess, strategies, but is there anything that David can do to really put himself back in this game and try to secure another game in the set?
Yeah, some of the cards that can be really key for David in this matchup, like the tag switch, he had to discard pretty early on. The Great Catcher as well got discarded pretty quickly. Definitely also, going first didn't help. You weren't able to get that turn 1 Electrify off. So since I assume David will be choosing to go second here in game number 2, he'll have that option, be able to go ahead and Electrify turn 1, try to get his board a little more set up. And that's really kind of what we saw in game 1. David just didn't really get set up. Jeremy got set up very well and was able to capitalize.
That is the big thing. Pressure, again, so important in this matchup. You need to put pressure on and put your opponent in that position where maybe they don't want to make a play, necessarily have to. You want to have the pace and control in this match. Speaking of which, let's go ahead and jump down into this game number 2 between both of these players. Again, Jeremy up 1-0 in this set, right? So is at an advantage, needs to win 2 more games in this best-of-5 series. David, however, is going to go ahead and go second. That's definitely got to feel good and exactly what you want to see with this Pikachu and Zekrom deck.
Absolutely. As Jeremy, now you're going to try to be setting up, for the potential turn 2 full blitz, so you want to get an energy down onto your Pikachu and Zekrom. Actually, interesting, it looks like Jeremy is debating just starting the Pikachu Zekrom. I feel like that's something you want to have on the bench here because it makes it much easier for you to Dance of the Ancients with the Tapu Koko Prism Star onto it. That way you can get off the turn 2 full blitz.
Yeah, a lot of players say that Pikachu and Zekrom may actually be the worst starter in this deck, at least going second, because of that hefty 3 retreat cost makes it really hard to get that Electrify off. But going second, not as big, or going first, excuse me, not as big of a deal, right? You just really want to get that turn 1 attachment, and then from there, set up some plays to maybe Electrify the following turn, or as you said, try to pull off that turn 2 full blitz. Tapu Koko is in the deck here for Jeremy, so could potentially have that option. Just checking through the prizes, right? Seeing what's prizes, a big part of the Pokemon trading card games. Looks like 1 boss's orders in the prizes, so maybe he wants to have that gusting option for later on in the game. Again, these players, very experienced, right? Have piloted this deck all the way through this event. Definitely know what they're doing here, Chip. They are very experienced with this deck.
Definitely, and it's very unfortunate here for Jeremy. I mean, if he wants to draw cards this turn, he wants to get an energy attachment, he's going to have to use the Dedenne GX's Dedenne change to discard the hand and really kind of move through the deck. You could Crobat, but this is going to yield you so many fewer cards, and I think that Jeremy, taking it a little slower here, wants to save that extra copy of Reset Stamp in the hand, so he has that option for later in the game. I was thinking he was going to just have to Dedenne change and discard both of them, but unfortunately, 3 cards not enough for Jeremy to find an energy card.
Yeah, and speaking of that second Reset Stamp, it looks very likely that that will actually hit the discard pile the following turn.
Yeah.
As David getting an even better hand off of this Reset Stamp, has the Pikachu and Zekrom, now has the Lightning Energy that was not in that opening hand for David, and a Cherish Ball as well. It looks like that Mewtwo and Mew is actually, I believe both copies are in the prize cards. I don't see them in the deck off of this Cherish Ball, Chip. Could that be a big factor in this game for David?
Well, it could be, but usually I feel like in David's list, when you're playing the tag switch in your list, you really want to try to utilize the Mewtwo and Mew in the mid game, maybe to take those last prizes on an opposing Mewtwo from your opponent's side of the field. And as Jeremy, you might not ever even bench a Mewtwo. So if a Mewtwo and Mew never comes down on your opponent's side, it's kind of, that's where it can be a little weird, right? Who benches the Mewtwo first and who can play to knocking out that Mewtwo in one hit?
Yeah, it's definitely a big part of this matchup. Mind games, necessarily. Who's going to play down the Mewtwo first, right? Who is going to take that maybe riskier approach? But it looks like David is going to go ahead and grab that Raichu and Alolan Raichu Tandem Shock. Such a powerful attack in any matchup, combined with something like the Reset Stamp. And it looks like David is going to be able to search some Pokemon out of the deck, is going to go ahead. And it looks like, considering playing this Quick Ball, is going to go ahead and play it, discarding that Bolt Hunt from the hand, and maybe going to grab something else like a Crobat here. Could fill that hand up to 6 cards, and it looks like that will be the grab. So Crobat is going to utilize that Dark Asset ability, drawing David 4 fresh new cards, and Not the best 4 cards necessarily, but this does still have a Marnie to follow this up if he so chooses to.
Yeah, kind of interesting here. I think David is actively choosing not to Marnie here because he saw Jeremy go after the Crobat, right? Knows that Jeremy probably has some kind of awkward cards in the hand, didn't go for something like the Dedenne. So it means one of two things. Either both Dedenne GX are prized or your opponent has some really key cards that they didn't want to discard off of Dedenne. So by not Marnieing, you're kind of, aware of that situation. And I think right away, David realizing, had both reset stamps in that hand.
Yeah, Electrify will accelerate 2 Lightning Energy onto David's field, as Jeremy will have to discard that second reset stamp, which can be such a powerful card in the late game. Has a nice hand, though. Gets that Boltund down. The Lightning Energy was able to switch into that Raichu and a Alolan Raichu, so this Boltund will be able to get off and Electrify this turn. Also has the Dedenne GX to discard this hand. Key thing to note, 2 Lightning Energy hitting the discard pile, and there are a bunch of Crushing Hammer here for Jeremy. Flip Tails on the first one, but the second Heads will be able to get rid of that Lightning Energy on the bench Pikachu and Zekrom, and another Heads here for Jeremy.
Huge.
Means that he will be able to wipe pretty much that entire Electrify turn. It's been negated, so both Lightning Energy accelerated onto that Pikachu and Zekrom are now gone. This could put David on the back foot now, and even with Jeremy's, I would say, poor start, it feels like Jeremy is back in the driver's seat.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, David can definitely get back out of this. You've, of course, got your own Crushing Hammers, potentially. We've got a Marnie here in hand, so, we can maybe dig for that. And at this point as well, you don't really mind just going to go ahead and, electrifying once again. It's not the end of the world. Also, notice a key thing to notice, Jeremy did discard both copies of Mewtwo, so if David takes one of those 2 copies off of, the first prize or 2 that he takes, we'll definitely... I would expect to see that coming into play, since it is kind of your most versatile attacker.
Yeah, David is actually going to go ahead and opt to discard that Professor's Research from hand. Prioritizing, utilizing something like the Dedenne, may want to combine this with something like the Boss's Orders in hand. That's the main thing, maybe, to see him going ahead and discarding that. But it looks like maybe wanting to utilize something else from the draw after using that Marnie. So we're going to go ahead and see that Dedenne change. Importantly, finds an energy, right? So David has not attached an energy for turn, so is really valuing finding that attachment. Again, Lightning Energy is so key in this deck. It's your main attack, but it also boosts Boltund damage, as well as we will see another Electrify. Grab 2 more Lightning Energy out of the deck. It's going to be so much as a repeat turn, right, for David. Is going to go ahead and take this turn, accelerate some Lightning Energy, as Jeremy here has a few options. Has that Lightning Energy in combination with the Boss's Orders. This could be a repeat of Game 1. A big hit onto a tag team Pokemon is just what you want to see here if you're Jeremy.
Oh, definitely. And, I mean, it would put so much pressure on David as well. I mean, you almost feel the pressure to just go ahead and, Tag Bolt knock out the Boltund V, which never feels great. I guess you wouldn't feel quite as bad about taking that 2-prize knockout since your opponent is already down both copies of Reset Stamp. Normally, that's a reason you want to avoid knocking out the Boltund in this matchup, is because it just opens you up to getting Reset Stamped down to just 1 card. But, yeah, it looks like Jeremy is going to opt for this route. Brings up the Pikachu and Zekrom, and going to go ahead and bench the Koko here. I imagine you want to go ahead and use Dance of the Ancients. I do believe there are 2 Lightnings down in the discard.
I believe so as well. We do see that Tapu Koko Prism Star utilize that Dance of the Ancients ability. Such a powerful ability in these Lightning-type decks. Great at accelerating those energy cards. It's not much of a liability as it goes straight to the Lost Zone. And there is a big Bolt Storm, 190 damage to this Pikachu and Zekrom, as you said, right? Big to put the pressure on. David may be forced to utilize this Tag Bolt to maybe not take the most prizes. You only knock out a Boltund, and then you're staring down your opponent taking a 3-prize knockout the following turn. So this is where things get scary for David. You really want to accelerate energy with Full Blitz, but it feels bad to leave this Boltund in the active. You're not putting pressure on your opponent's tag team Pokemon, but again, has a few options. We do even see that Great Catcher in hand, so David could take the turn to pretty much do a repeat turn to Jeremy, right? Bring up that Pikachu and Zekrom. There are tons of options, as we do see the Eldegoss is actually going to go ahead and grab, it looks like, the Boss's Orders from the discard. Does have that Great Catcher, but it looks like prioritizing grabbing the Boss and maybe saving the Great Catcher for later, especially if David is not going to do much else on the turn, really wants to utilize Great Catcher to dig through the deck, so to say, and we are actually going to see that bring up that Raichu and Alolan Raichu, and is going to utilize that Full Blitz. We'll grab the 2 remaining Lightning Energy out of the deck and accelerate them onto what I I most likely believe will be that Raichu and Alolan Raichu.
Yeah, and I actually really like this as David, you go ahead and get the hit on this tag team Pokemon, and this is the only way your opponent can use Tandem Shock for the rest of the game. Both of their Mewtwo's are in the discard pile, so if you can deal with this Raichu, that means it's something you're not going to have to deal with, you know, that paralysis later on in the game. And by using the boss's orders, you kind of open yourself up to be able to go Great Catcher, Knockout with something like a Team Yell Grunt or the Professor's Research in hand. So you leave yourself plenty of options next turn. Definitely well played, I think, in that situation by David. We'll see what Jeremy wants to do on this turn. Already has the Air Balloon, so can go ahead and pretty easily take this knockout on Pikachu and Zekrom. But where do you go from here?
That's the big question. Does find that speed lightning energy. There's multiple routes Jeremy can take to get this knockout onto that Pikachu and Zekrom. Is definitely content taking the first 3 prizes of this game. It's going to be on David at that point, right? Needs to apply pressure back, especially with a clean tag team coming up into the active. So Jeremy still has that attachment for a turn. I think debating whether or not to attach it to this Raichu and Alolan Raichu. It seems like the best target, though, to go ahead and attach that Speed Lightning Energy is going to go ahead and draw 2 cards off that bonus from Speed Lightning Energy. Such a cool card in this deck. Provides a little bit more consistency, which is always great in the Pokemon trading card game, as Boltstorm looks like going to be the choice attack for Jeremy in this situation. Has an Air Balloon as well. Could go ahead and play that down. Both players are not playing any sort of tool removal in this case, so it's pretty safe to just go ahead and play those Air Balloons down whenever it's there. Is going to be the big Boltstorm, dealing 220 damage, knocking out David's Pikachu and Zekrom. Jeremy is going to go ahead and take the first 3 prizes, and now if you're David, what do you do in this position? You're staring down Jeremy's side with so many lightning energy. If you're not taking a knockout, Boltstorm is dealing enough damage to knock out a tag team. What can you do from here, Chip?
I think you definitely want to take those energies out that are on the Raichu and Alolan Raichu on the bench. Just go ahead and take those 3 prizes there. And it also means that if you're taking the knockout with your Boltund, which I expect that's what we would see here, just the Boltstorm to take that knockout, it'll do a couple of things for you. First off, it makes it so that you have a 2-prizer in the active, so your opponent, you're not letting one of your tag teams take a potential hit, right? And, you know, also it takes the 2 energies out of play, meaning that your opponent cannot respond with their own Boltstorm for the KO, because they would only be able to, at max, do 190 damage next turn if they attached another energy.
Yeah, it's going to be big here, but we do see David had that Great Catcher, decided to save it. This could be a great turn to utilize it. It looks like considering attaching another Lightning Energy. If David decides to play this Great Catcher, we'll have to discard 2 cards from hand. So I think just debating what the discard is going to be, it looks like it is going to be that Pikachu and Zekrom and that Switch. So it definitely feels bad to get rid of a Switch in this case, but we'll be able to bring up his Pikachu and Zekrom. I think David is going for a big Lightning Ride GX here. Needs to find that Tapu Koko Prism Star and the switching card, and it looks like was able to find that there. Quick Ball will be able to grab a Tapu Koko Prism Star out of there, and Air Balloon will allow that Dene to retreat for 0 retreat cost.
Yeah, this is actually great for David, and you're also going to set up the Boltund as well, so you have the Boltstorm option ready to go to close out the game on your opponent's Raichu and Alolan Raichu next turn. So, I mean, this is kind of what we've liked to see from these players, just being able to target down the opposing tag teams. David was able to be the one to be the aggressor in this game with Boss's Orders. Jeremy, of course, did it in game number 1, and I definitely got to favor David's position here.
Yeah, we usually don't see Lightning Ride GX as the GX attack necessarily utilized in this matchup. It's a hefty attack cost, right? 5 energy, and usually when you take the time to build it up, Boss's Orders, again, Great Catcher, whatever the gusting card is, can put pressure on, and then it gets scary from there. But Lightning Ride GX, such a powerful GX attack, is going to use it. 250 damage, will take a 1-hit knockout onto this Pikachu and Zekrom, and also going to go ahead and switch into that Dedenne GX, so 2 great effects, right? Dealing that bonus 100 damage for those extra 2 lightning energy, and the base attack also switches into an active Pokemon. So now David also promotes something a little bit less liable, right? A 2-prize non-attacking Pokemon. This feels like, as you said, a great position for David, as Jeremy's not out of it yet, has potential options, especially with his hand, could potentially put together a play with Boss's Orders in combination with this Raichu and Alolan Raichu. This could be a big Tandem Shock turn here for Jeremy.
Yeah, I think we're probably just going to see the Boltstorm. It's dealing 160 damage to knock out this Dedenne GX, and then maybe in combination with a Marnie. And you just got to kind of hope that your opponent doesn't have the Boss's Orders. Of course, with Jeremy's own Boss's Orders, maybe if David is down a high number of switch cards, you would go ahead and go for the Boss onto the opposing Dedenne GX, try to lock it up for a turn. Excuse me, the opposing Raichu and Alolan Raichu trying to lock it up for a turn. But we're actually going to see the energy attachment onto the different Boltund here, so not going to be going for that that Tandem Shock play. Gonna just be taking this knockout with Bolt Storm, and also finds a key Crushing Hammer potentially. I think wants to get rid of that energy off of Boltund.
Definitely. You want to take the main threat attacker off the board. Both of those Pokemon powerful attackers, but Boltund is hitting for a lot of damage, but Crushing Hammer is going to flip tails, so this gets really scary here. Luckily, though, for Jeremy, David does not have that boss's orders in hand yet, but could combine this with something like a Reset Stamp in combination with Tandem Shock, so is going to have plenty of options here. Jeremy is going to go down to just one prize card, so this is the power of Reset Stamp, Chip. Can put Jeremy down to one card in hand. It's going to be back to David here.
Now on to David. Does top deck the Cherish Ball if there is, no Dedenne GX in the deck. We see two bosses orders there, but no way to dig for it, so you can't close the game out this turn, but we do see the Air Balloon and the Reset Stamp, so worst case scenario for David, we're going to just see a Stamp to 1 plus a Tandem Shock.
Yeah, and can even combine this with something like the Fan of Waves to put that energy on that Raichu and Alolan Raichu back onto the bottom of the deck. So that could be one more card. I kind of like that play, right? You put one more energy out of play, it's less damage that Boltstorm is doing, but at the same time, it's one more good card that we could see. Is actually going to go ahead and opt to play the Marnie instead.
Yeah, I like this too.
Interesting choice. Yeah, this is a good play as well. So is not going to opt to play the Reset Stamp. We will see Crushing Hammer does hit heads, so we'll be able to potentially take this energy off the bench Boltund. That could be a good strategy. You could also eliminate the energy from that Raichu and Alolan Raichu, so there are tons of plays, and I'm sure we're going to be seeing a very powerful Bolt Storm, Chip, this turn.
Yeah, Boltstorm here would be able to pick up the KO. We also see the Speed Lightning can get that attachment onto the Mewtwo. Actually could see, that become a potential attacker as well. Of course, David, totally aware Jeremy is down both copies of the Mewtwo and Mew. So this is what we were talking about earlier on in the game. Now this becomes kind of your most versatile attacker. So let's see which Pokemon David wants to attack with here. I gotta think it's gonna be Boltund, because that's the only thing you're getting the knockout with, but maybe you're just committed to waiting to get the boss's orders on to that benched Raichu and Alolan Raichu.
Yeah, and we know Jeremy is down both Reset Stamps, so David is pretty safe holding this hand on, right? You would also be Reset Stamping your opponent up a card, so this is going to be a big turn for Jeremy. We do see there is a Dedenne GX left in the deck, so this is where things could get tricky, especially if Jeremy can pair this with something like a powerful Bolt Storm into a boss's orders potentially, right? This Boltund is not hitting for just quite enough damage, is just a little bit short, only hitting for 130 damage. As we do see the switch, we'll go ahead and reset that paralysis. The Dedenne is most likely going to come down. Has a lot of energy in the discard pile, though. That is the scary thing. Jeremy will have to discard 2 more lightning energy off of this Dedenne change. Is looking for a few key pieces. Does find a variety of supporters. Almost all different supporters that Jeremy does play in this deck. Has the potential to go ahead and play those, but Jim, it's going to be interesting to see which supporter gets played here.
Yeah, I mean, as Jeremy, do you really Marnie your opponent when they've only got a 2-card hand? You can't think that they necessarily have it right away. Of course, we see David's hand. We know that he's got the boss ready to go. You could go for your own boss here as Jeremy, and then you're just looking to Boltstorm to hit KO something, but that doesn't necessarily really help, because then David can just switch to the bench and attack with something else, and then you're in a situation where you still need to play a boss on the following turn. So honestly, with the current hand Jeremy has, probably the best play is just to retreat and attack with the clean Boltund and just attack into the Mewtwo and try to go for the 2-hit KO if you can find another energy next turn.
I really like this play. I was eyeing that down. This gives David a little bit of a harder route to victory, right? You go ahead and Boltstorm this Eldegoss, and now you force David to find a boss's orders on top of a switching card, as there is a quick ball top deck, but I don't think there's anything else in deck. And now this is going to go ahead and force David to play this Marnie. So this is a great net position now for Jeremy. But look at that hand, Chip. There are a lot of Crushing Hammer. These could be some big flips here, as we do see the first one is going to go ahead and flip tails, so these are going to be big flips here. Second one also tails. Oh, it's so unfortunate here. David flipping 3 tails. Oh no, 3 tails off of those Crushing Hammer flips. Definitely could have been a big card here. And you see Jeremy going ahead and giving that broken
David,
heart. It always hurts to see that.
David hasn't attached yet, right? So all he needs to do is put this Speed Lightning energy in play. I guess maybe he wants to save it for next turn to look for the boss. Still having 3 prize cards. It's kind of a tough spot still. I mean, you can go ahead and you've put so much damage in play onto multiple different Pokemon and just not been able to close the game out quite yet. I'm not really sure. I feel like I would have liked to have taken the prizes here as David, because you know your opponent is out of reset stamps.
Yeah, and on top of that, there's no real threat to knocking out this Boltund from the opponent's side, as we are just going to go ahead and see that Tandem Shock is going to go ahead and paralyze. We do see Jeremy has the switching card in hand, and again, this just gives Boltstorm even more time to power up. Right now, we'll be hitting for 160 damage, but this is going to be big for Jeremy. We are going to see him consider attaching his speed, lightning energy. We'll go ahead and do that. Does he find the boss's orders? No boss's orders there, so we'll be able to at least reset the paralysis. Switch will go ahead and go into the other Boltund. And I don't really think you want to play the Marnie, right? You don't want to give your opponent even more cards in the hand. Could combine this with something like a Team Yell Grunt to maybe reset the energy, but doesn't feel like it's doing too much either. But I guess it's better than nothing, right? You go ahead and reset an energy off the board. You'd rather do that than not play it. You're not really going to get much use out of this. Instead, I think just considering what energy to go ahead and bring back, it's just going to be that lightning energy, not the speed lightning. Smart choice there from Jeremy. You don't want to give your opponent access to even more cards. Could have potentially, I don't know if there's any more Pokemon left in Jeremy's deck. Quick Ball could have been a way to maybe thin one more card out to give yourself an extra out to that boss's orders. And it looks like, considering maybe retreating into this other Boltund or the Crobat, wants to really bring up something that's maybe not as liable, not an important attacker. You really don't want your opponent to wipe even more energy off the board, as Boltund is going to be the real win condition here for Jeremy.
Well, yeah, and Jeremy actually is totally out of Gust options. There's all 3 boss's orders down in the discard pile and the Eldegoss in the discard pile as well. So Jeremy has no way to bring something else up. Is not playing something like a Great Catcher in his list. So it's really just going to be on to David here. If David can find boss's orders off of this draw, that is going to be the game, and David is able to find it. We'll be able to retreat this Mewtwo and Mew, and boss's orders will bring up that damaged Raichu and Alolan Raichu. And we'll go ahead and take this KO with Tandem Shock, locking up game number 2 for David, meaning that we are going into a game 3 in this best of 5.
Yeah, excellent play there from David in game number 2. A big Lightning Ride GX play, was able to take that 3 prize knockout onto the Pikachu and Zekrom and really swung the favor back into his side chip. We're going into game number 3, right? These players need to win 2 games each in order to advance into the grand finals. What do we think? Do we think David's gonna take it down? Do we think it's on Jeremy? What do we think here?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think David's list is kind of prepared for this mirror match. He's got some really good options with the tag switch. I really like playing that card in the list. Also, the 1 copy of Fan of Waves we saw come up in that last game, I think is a solid card as well in this matchup. So we'll have to see how David's first turn looks here, since I'm assuming Jeremy will be going second here. But, you know, either of these players, whoever wins 3 games first, the first person to win 3 games will win the best of 5 here and move on to grand finals. And, I mean, that's how these mirror matches can be, though. It really can be anyone's game.
Yeah, we may be seeing a long set here, Chip, if it keeps going back and forth with both these players. But it's still awesome action, and you love to see it here. Super awesome action between both of these highly accomplished, highly experienced players. So let's go ahead and get down into game number 3 between both of these players. Again, Chip, I'm expecting a real close one here. Last one was a nail biter. Really came down to the cards left in deck, right? If Jeremy maybe had that last gusting option, could have potentially drawn into that and taken a knockout. David got pretty bailed out here. He's got a very solid start to start things out. The Cherish Ball can search out that Pikachu and Zekrom. The Speed Lightning Energy can get that turn 1 attachment, and we'll also be drawing a couple of mulligan cards. Actually, no, has the basic in hand. So both these players starting Boltund. Jeremy likes to see that hand, but Chip, looking over at Jeremy's hand, there is not much going for him.
Yeah, definitely not much going on quite yet for Jeremy. He has plenty of solid top decks. A Quick Ball would be amazing. Lets you go ahead and get, you know, either a Pikachu Zekrom or an option for like a Dedenne GX to go ahead and ditch the hand. You've also got the Crushing Hammer, which can set back David's attachment here and really slow him down, force him to go for something like the Electrify on turn 2, as opposed to being able to just dig and go for the Full Blitz right away on turn number 2. David going to take some time here, check the prizes, try to figure out exactly what he is going to be working with this game, and has that Speed Lightning in hand, which can be a great option to draw some extra cards here on turn number 1.
Yeah, I would have liked to maybe see the basic lightning attached, right? It is a little bit of a better card to recover with something like that Crushing Hammer. You really don't need to find anything else this turn, right? You're really just trying to look for that Pikachu and Zekrom and that lightning energy. So again, it's not the biggest deal, right? If Crushing Hammer hits, it still is an energy reset, but it's just one less basic lightning energy that you can recover in the discard pile, as that is a big-time top deck for Jeremy. Top decks the Dene GX. Hey, if you're in a bad spot, just have your top deck bail you out here, Chip. Finds the Dene off the top of the deck. We'll be able to draw 6 cards. It looks like a little bit of a rough discard, right? You are getting rid of another reset stamp. We saw how big that was for Jeremy to get those reset stamps discarded. This is a great hand, though. Has some awesome attackers to get powered up with that Electromagnetic Radar. Such a great card, right? Such a great item card in these lightning-based decks. Can search out those Pikachu and Zekrom, those Raichu and Alolan Raichu to Dene GX. There's so many options, and it also gets some of those lightning energy in the discard pile as well. Just such a great tool card, such a great item card, excuse me, in this deck.
Yeah, definitely a great card. Ever since Unbroken Bonds came out, that is a card that has been included in Pikachu and Zekrom decks, at least as a 1 or 2 of. And David actually not playing a copy. Is playing still the 1 copy. And that's kind of what we've seen lists evolve to at this point. You know, in the past, people would play 4 lists. Then once Quick Ball came out, that kind of just became a better option since it would get you some of the, V Pokemon once Boltund and Crobat started coming out, right? So Radar is still a very strong option. And we are going to go ahead and see the Electrify from Jeremy, and I gotta imagine these are just going to be going 2 energies onto the Pikachu and Zekrom.
Yeah, you really want to get that powered up as much as possible here. So we're only going to have 4 lightning energy left in the deck, but still plenty to work for, as it looks like there are a few prized again, it looks like, for Jeremy. It looks like a couple energy, not the biggest deal. So I think just thinking through what to accelerate these onto, again, just checking through. Wants to make sure the best possible lines of play are going to be taken from Jeremy, as we will see. Looks like considering it, but yes, going to go ahead and throw those 2 lightning energies on to that Pikachu and Zekrom action. Back on David. Has a few options to work with, right? That Pikachu and Zekrom, we do see the lightning energy can go into the discard pile with this Dead change. So Tapu Koko Prism Star will be online for the full effect this turn. And you really want to accelerate those energies onto a good attacker, right? The Dene, not a very powerful attacker, even in this lightning-based deck, right? It can use its attacks, but it's pretty underwhelming. We do see that Quick Ball, Mewtwo, Mew. There's a few options. And I don't know, Chip. Are we going to see the Raichu and Alolan Raichu get powered up? What are we going to see here?
Yeah, it looks like it is the Raichu and Raichu that David is choosing to get. I actually, the more I've kind of thought about it with these specific lists in this matchup, I really wouldn't mind seeing David use his own Mewtwo and Mew a little bit more aggressively. There's no way for Jeremy to just power it up in one single turn. Does not play the tag switch like David does. And so if you can be a little more aggressive with your Mewtwo and Mew, I mean, it's still the best option for you because it can use both attacks, both of the attacks of the Pikachu and Zekrom and the Raichu and Alolan Raichu. And, if your opponent ever benches their own Mewtwo and full blitzes onto it or something like that, that could be an easy 3 prizes for you to take.
And this is a big turn for David. As you said, the first hit onto a tag team Pokemon, so important in this matchup, is going to be able to boss his orders up that Raichu and Alolan Raichu. So David, it worked out for him game 1, right? Is taking the same line of play. Wants to try to put pressure onto that tag team Pokemon. But more importantly, that Lightning Raichu GX is only dealing 250 damage, so 10 short of taking the knockout onto that Raichu and Alolan Raichu, so really wants to utilize that for the following turn, as Jeremy's going to flip another Crushing Hammer Tails. This feels so scary, especially when your opponent pretty much has a knockout on board, just needs to find 1 Lightning Energy, and can even manually retreat the Pikarom, but I'm sure David definitely wants to find a switching card, as we will see a plethora of Air Balloon come down into play. Jeremy does find another Crushing Hammer, so this is going to be a big flip. If its heads, it will be able to reset the energy, but no, 0 for 2, on those Crushing Hammer heads.
Yeah, unfortunately, unable to remove any of those energies from play. And interestingly enough, we are going to go ahead and see Jeremy put his own Mewtwo and Mew in play. I think David has only discarded 1 this game, and it looked like the other one may have been in the prize cards. So if David can find that Mewtwo and Mew and then, get a tag switch, this Mewtwo could be an easy target to close out the game for the last 3 prizes.
And we see those cards already in hand for David. The Switch and the Lightning Energy even has something like the Eldegoss to find a Professor's Research to draw even more cards out of the deck. This is looking excellent here for David. It looks like gonna just grab the Pikachu and Zekrom. Could just be an extra card to thin out of the deck. There we go. We are going to see the attachment. There's the Switch. Doesn't even need to find Boss's Orders this turn. That Pikachu and Zekrom is already in the active position. I think David is just considering maybe taking the turn Lightning Ride, saving the Eldegoss. There's nothing else you really want to find this turn. So there we go. Lightning Ride GX, 250 damage. Gonna go ahead and switch into that Boltund V, taking the same route of play. A big 3-prize knockout. David is back in the driver's seat again, Chip.
Yeah, definitely. And I like this decision from David. Holding on to the Eldegoss, you don't need anything else, like you said, this turn. So that just becomes an out off of a reset stamp. You can find either a Quick Ball or the Eldegoss itself, and that'll get you a Boss's Orders to potentially close this game out. Raichu and Alolan Raichu on the bench with 150 damage is just an easy attack away from locking up the game for David.
Yeah, and speaking of locking up the game, there is an actual play where David can knock out any Pokemon next turn with that Boltund. I believe still has that tag switch in deck. You really don't need those extra energies onto that Raichu and Alolan Raichu. Can get that Boltund powered up. It is hitting for a whopping 250 damage, but Boss's Orders is going to put a little bit more pressure on. It will allow this Boltund to take the knockout. Following that up with a reset stamp as well will put David's hand size down to 3 cards, and there it is. Bolt Storm going to deal a nice 100 damage, but even then, right, David pretty much has the energies online to go ahead and get a return knockout onto this Boltund. So Jeremy still in a pretty rough spot, especially if David is able to get this knockout and wipe all but one energy off of the board.
And David's got it here, able to top deck the Boss's Orders, also had that Quick Ball for the Eldegoss anyway. We'll go ahead and bring up the opposing Raichu, and it's the same way we saw the second game get closed out. David bossing up a Raichu and taking the knockout with his own Raichu and Alolan Raichu tag team. Such a powerful card, and it's been the way that David has closed out both of the games he's won so far in this set.
Absolutely. It seems like David maybe has the perfect strategy in this mirror match to be able to close this out. We've seen him take it game number 2 and number 3, really relying on that Lightning Ride GX to take a big knockout onto that Pikachu and Zekrom, putting pressure on the other tag team Pokemon, whether that's the Raichu and Alolan Raichu, even if a Mewtwo and Mew comes down, so to say. It's the same route of victory, right? Knocking out 2 3-prize Pokemon. Chip, is this the perfect strategy? Do you think David has figured out this mirror match?
Well, it certainly feels really solid. You've won 2 games pretty convincingly in a row, and now you find yourself just 1 game away from being in the grand finals here of Players Cup number 3. So, I mean, if I'm David, I'm going to stick to what has been working for me. You're going to be going second in this game. You were able to still, you're going to be going first in this game. You were able to still win that one even after going first. So, I don't know. I mean, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. David has been doing pretty well here in these last couple games. I expect we'll see the same strategy.
Absolutely. It's been working out for him so far, and as you said, 1 game away from advancing into the grand finals. The pressure is on both these players. David, again, so close to advancing to that big match to potentially become your 3rd Players Cup champion. Let's go ahead and get down into game number 4. I feel like I'm not saying that a lot. Game number 4 between both these players. Again, we are playing a best of 5 set. David is going to be going first. Obviously, these Pikachu and Zekrom players, as we said time and time again, want to be going second to get that turn 1 Electrify. Jeremy has that best starter in Boltund, has a lot of other cards to work with. It's looking pretty solid as David is going to start things out with a mulligan. So Jeremy's going to get an extra card to start things out. Got to be feeling pretty solid here if you're Jeremy.
Oh, yeah, Jeremy's got kind of the perfect hand, honestly, if you're going second. You got 2 Crushing Hammers, so even if you flip tails on the first one, you got 2 shots at discarding an energy, because, you know, almost definitely we're going to see David put an energy onto Pikachu and Zekrom this turn if he's got the option to. As we do see, David does only have that Mewtwo. I wonder if maybe we'll see David mix it up and try to attack with that Mewtwo a little more aggressively. Based on the lists, I really do think it would be kind of safe for David to go that route early on.
Definitely, for sure. It looks like David is struggling with this hand, right? There's not much to do. I think you almost have to attach this energy to the Boltund V. If you don't, then you really don't have anything else, assuming there's no top deck, right? Nothing off the top of the deck. You at least want to get off that Electrify on your second turn of the game. It looks like just going to go ahead and attach and pass the turn over, as Jeremy has an excellent start. Several Crushing Hammer in hand. Could even take the turn to utilize something like Team Yell Grunt. No need necessary when you flip heads on that Crushing Hammer card. Such a powerful disruptive card in the standard format, able to remove energies. It's an item card, right? So you can keep going through your deck with those draw supporters, draw support Pokemon. And Jeremy is content with attaching this lightning energy. It looks like just going to take the turn off, right? David did not do much, so Jeremy is fine. Taking the position to just attach some energies in play. You don't need to do much here, right? That's your goal. Players really want to map their turns out, right? So David, it was finding an energy attachment. Jeremy, it's getting that Electrify off. You really don't want to have to do too much, and again, leave yourself those options for later on in the game.
Yeah, definitely. Doesn't really need anything else, so no reason to really burn a bunch of cards and just try to Crobat for 3 or 4. You know, you don't need anything else here. You can dig next turn if you have to. You've got the Quick Ball, you've got the Speed Lightning, so you... I mean, if you can find the opportunity to save the Crobat for later in the game so it becomes a draw option off of something like a Marnie or a Reset Stamp, that definitely is where it can be much more powerful.
Yeah, one thing to note, again, prizes are big in this matchup. Jeremy has been in a weird situation with prizes. There are 3 Professor's Research in Jeremy's prizes. So there's the downside, right? You have less draw in the early game, but it always feels nice to draw some of those key draw supporters off of your prize cards later in the game, and you need them, as it looks like we are just going to see a draw pass from David. Top deck a Bolton V. This is feeling very bad for David. Jeremy is in an excellent position, has the ability to start getting those lightning energy in the discard pile, has a few options to grab. It looks like is going to prioritize getting that Mewtwo out. I like this play from Jeremy, right? You want to put that aggression on. It can be an easy 3 prize cards to take in the late game, right? All you need to find is a Boss's Orders and Full Blitz, Tandem Shock. Any of those attacks will be able to knock out that Mewtwo because of that Psychic Weakness hitting for double damage. I think Jeremy's just debating whether or not to attach that energy, but is going to prioritize finding those 2 cards, and this is big. Jeremy can set up this Mewtwo this turn with Electrify and has the Boss's Orders the following turn to follow it up.
Yeah, definitely. Could be huge for Jeremy. If you can find the energy for the next turn, that is, you'll be able to take this first 3 prize knockout. And I think Jeremy, you know, definitely feeling confident in putting the Mewtwo down since David has had such a slow start. But, I mean, David is just one top deck away from being right back in this one. It does feel bad when you're staring down a opposing board with 5 energies, and top decking a Mewtwo isn't really going to help you too much here.
It is not. Has to just try to stall out this Pikachu Zekrom. The horrid, right? You hate to see the defensive Boss's Orders. And Jeremy's pretty much got this in hand. It's just got to dig a little bit farther through the deck. Has the Air Balloon to attach to the Pikachu Zekrom. That can guarantee the retreat. It obviously feels pretty bad to attach an Air Balloon where you're still discarding energy to retreat, but I feel like that could be a little bit of a safer play here from Jeremy. You see him waving that Air Balloon around. It's not quite sure where to go ahead and attach that, but it is going to be on the Boltund. He can go ahead and draw 2 cards off this Crobat, then Dead Change and draw 6 cards. So I think that's the play we're going to see, but it looks like considering leaving the bench space open, so is just going to opt to Dead Change. This is going to be a big card. So as we see the switch, no energy here either, so even getting bailed out a little bit. Could have at least, if the Air Balloon went on the active, saw a Bolt Storm or some sort of pressure. Here we go. This is a big turn, but no, David's still not finding anything. Has this switch at least to go into the Boltund, but action is going to be right back on Jeremy. What is this game? I mean, you really don't want to play Marnie to bail your opponent out, but I think that's the only option here for Jeremy. David is going to get a blessing in the name of Marnie. A disruption supporter is helping out David. You see Jeremy so resistant to clicking that. Yes, it's going to draw him fewer cards, but at least finds the switch in combination with a few energy, so Jeremy can start getting an attack off this turn. I think even considering utilizing the Mewtwo and Mew, could draw some cards off Speed Lightning energy, but it looks like is content just going ahead and utilizing that Full Blitz attack. Could also use Tag Bolt in this situation to take the knockout on Bolton. I feel like you're in such a advanced board state compared to your opponent, right? You have so many energy. It's 6-0 when it comes to energy right now, comparing both of these board states. Do you think that's a smart play, taking an attack, knockout with Tag Bolt?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely don't dislike it at all. Your opponent is going to be forced to send up this Mewtwo Mew. I was actually thinking maybe David should have benched that second Boltund just in case his opponent did get off a play where he could take the knockout, because you could get the knockout through either a Bolt Storm if you got a, Tapu Koko with a couple of energies, right, with the Dance of the Ancients. You could have been able to take the knockout with Bolt Storm, or like we just saw, the Tag Bolt threat was real. And, I mean, I think if David had another Boltund to promote here, Jeremy would have felt way more hesitant about just taking that knockout because it's not forcing the opposing Mewtwo Mew into the active.
Here we will see Crushing Hammer flip heads, so we'll be able to remove an energy off of that Mewtwo Mew, grabbing Pikachu and Zekrom off of the Cherish Ball, and there is the Professor's Research. Needs to find a whole bunch of cards. That's a pretty nice set of cards here. At least can get an Electrify off, but David has just been on the back end of draws this game. Doesn't even have anything to finish that or really follow up with, right? The following turn, there's no draw supporter. No Dedenne. May even have to take this turn to utilize something like Dedenne this turn because there's not much of a follow-up, but that just feels like even more of a liability as David is going to play risky. You have to play risky when you're this behind in this matchup. So we'll at least be able to see the Electrify this turn, but this now opens up the possibility for Jeremy to find another copy of Boss's Orders and be able to take a knockout on the Mewtwo and Mew, either one of them on the bench, not only taking 3 prizes, but resetting this Electrify turn. And I don't even know, Chip, can David even come back from that position?
Yeah, maybe not, but I think this is actually smart here from David to play around the potential Boss's Orders play. You're splitting the energy attachment between the two different Mewtwo and Mew, so you're leaving yourself the option to potentially be able to respond to your opponent's Mewtwo and Mew if that's what they go all in on. So I like this play from Jeremy. You're going to go ahead and switch. You can always Air Balloon back if you want to, attack with something else here. And we've got a couple Lightning Energies in the discard pile, so we could definitely see a Dance of the Ancients here.
On top of that, there is a Boss's Orders in the discard pile, so we could see Jeremy go ahead and grab that Eldegoss V and use that Happy Match ability to grab Boss's Orders and take a big 3 prize turn as we see David again having pretty much nothing in hand. We'll see that Eldegoss is in the deck. I didn't quite see it there, Jeremy not letting us take a look, but we are at least going to first see that Tapu Koko Prism Star get grabbed. Dance of the Ancients is going to go ahead and accelerate 2 Lightning Energy. I would have actually liked to see that Boltund retreat first, but at this point, right, you're putting that extra energy onto the Mewtwo and Mew. You've already used your GX attack, so it could feel like an energy wasted necessarily, but I don't think it's as relevant as Jeremy's just content to take this knockout on Boltund. There's a couple positives, right? You do go ahead and limit the amount of cards you get reset stamped to, as we do see David having that reset stamp, but this is going to be a big top deck. No, another Speed Lightning Energy. David has no options here, and Jeremy looks like with the cards in the hand will have the pieces necessary to go ahead and take this knockout. We're going to be seeing a game 5 here, Chip.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, there's literally nothing David can do. You can attach an energy to one of these Pokemon and pass, but then all Jeremy has to do is retreat, and we'll be able to hit for Psychic Weakness to take the last 2 prizes on either of these Mewtwo and Mew. So we'll see David go ahead and scoop things up. Good note for David, though, is that he will at least be able to be going second here in game number 5. And I'm excited here, Ethan. It's our first ever best of 5 in a Pokemon Players Cup, and we're going to a game 5 right away.
Definitely fitting. We get to see all 5 awesome games of action between both these players. As you said, it's big. David is going to be able to go second here. Exactly what these Pikachu and Zekrom players want to do. It feels like every game that players have gone second has gone in their favor, right? It is that important to get that Electrify off and start putting pressure on right away. Chip, this is, as you said, a big game. Game number 5. Winner goes ahead and advances to grand finals. Loser has to fight it out in another best of 5 set. I want your predictions here. Who do you think is going to take it down in this crucial game 5?
I got to give the slight edge to David here. Going second is huge. You get that turn 1 Electrify. We did see David win game number 3 in which he went first, but won game number 2 that he went second in. So it feels like if David can just draw a little bit better than he did, obviously, in that game number 4, would be in a much, much better spot. And like I said, David's got some great options in his deck list. He's got the Great Catcher, got the option of the Fan of Waves, Yell Grunt, Fan of Waves, plus a Crushing Hammer. Not really a combo we've seen popped out quite yet in one of these games, but I think that's always something that you've got to be considering as Jeremy, that your opponent could do at any point in the game.
Definitely a disruptive combo for sure. Chip, I'm excited. I am so stoked for this game number 5. Again, such a crucial big game, but enough talking from us. Let's go ahead and get down to the action between both these players. What you all want to go and see. Let's get it, everyone. Again, big game 5 between both of these players. As looking through these lists, right, as you said, the Fan of Waves can be a disruptive card, can put that energy on the bottom of the deck. Here we go. David is going to be going ahead, and I believe gonna go second in this match if I'm not mistaken. So we'll at least have that option. But again, it seems like he's been on the back end of draws in this situation. There's not much to work with in this hand. I mean, you do have some Crushing Hammers, can draw a little bit aggressively, so to say, with something like a Dedenne out of the deck, has the pivot option. So David's not out of it, right? Just needs a few more pieces to get off this turn Electrify, as Jeremy will be the player going first here. Has something like the Quick Ball, starting that Mewtwo and Mew. So we are seeing a Mewtwo and Mew side of things, right? We've always seen Mewtwo's stand up against Mewtwo's all the way back to, I believe, X-Ball days, right? With these, the Mewtwo wars, right? And it was Mewtwo on Mewtwo hitting for a big weakness. So it feels always fitting to see Mewtwo up against Mewtwo in these big games, right? Where a lot is on the line.
Yeah, and this actually could be really bad for Jeremy since he has started his own Mewtwo and Mew. I mean, maybe this is what you need to try to do as Jeremy, since you've started it, is just try to go for the full blitz knockout onto your opponent's Mewtwo and Mew right away on turn number 2. So Jeremy, maybe looking for that energy attachment onto this active right away, is definitely going to have plenty of cards to play out this hand, has that electromagnetic radar, can go ahead and get a Pikachu and Zekrom, can go ahead and get a Dedenne GX to draw some cards, and we'll have to just kind of navigate things from there. It is a little unfortunate, however, to lose 2 Crushing Hammers right away.
Yeah, both players starting out with 2 Crushing Hammer.
Yep.
Really the epitome of a mirror match here, right? Same cards in hand. It's only fitting in this last game. So we are going to see that Pikachu and Zekrom get grabbed. I think considering going ahead and benching it, I wouldn't hate that necessarily, but here we go. We are going to go ahead and see that Dedenne chance. Needs to find the turn 1 energy. Has a pretty solid set of cards, but not really much, again, to follow up the following turn. Speed Lightning Energy only drawing you cards on a Lightning Pokemon, so will not be able to utilize that bonus on the Mewtwo and Mew. So Jeremy's going to really be playing off the top deck for this following turn. David is going to also have to find a couple of pieces here. Something like his own Dedenne would, again, get rid of some of those key pieces, like Crushing Hammer, like Tag Switch. So this is going to be a big turn here for David. David is going to go ahead and start things out with a Crobat top deck. So this could actually be very big. This will allow him to go ahead and ditch something like that Chaotic Swell, or even another Crushing Hammer, and thin this hand down to 5 cards, as that first Crushing Hammer will go ahead and hit head. So here we go, Quick Ball. I think just considering which card to go ahead and get discard in this case, both are very important, but it is going to be the Tag Switch hitting the discard pile. There we see the Boltund in deck. There are plenty of options for David to grab, but it's going to be big. Can David find that Lightning Energy? There are plenty in the deck. David playing a big 13 copies of energy cards for that Boltund V and the rest of the attackers. As we're looking through the deck, again, that Fan of Waves could come and key this match. That's in the deck. It looks like there is a few Boss's Orders prized. I believe 2 Boss's Orders in the prize cards, as well as 2 copies of Marnie. So 4 supporters prize here, Chip. Could that make a big difference in this match?
Yeah, definitely. David does still have the Great Catcher, so thanks to playing that 1 tech item card, we'll still have that option for a Gust, but Boss's Orders is actually one of those cards that you don't mind taking off the prizes, as long as you can take them, you know, as your first couple prizes. It would be unfortunate for 2 Boss to be in those last 3 prize cards, but if you can find one off of one of those first 3 prize cards you take, if you take a Tag Team Knockout, you're definitely going to feel pretty solid about that.
Yeah, definitely. David is going to go ahead and draw 2 cards with that Speed Lightning Energy. This is going to be a big turn 1 Electrify for David. So this is it here. This is exactly what you want to see if you're David. You're electrifying, you're getting energies into play. You're even threatening something like that opposing knockout onto a Mewtwo and Mew chip. This feels like an excellent position here for David.
Absolutely. Going to go ahead and accelerate the energies. And I think it was actually smart of David between, you know, earlier on this turn was deciding between discarding the Tag Switch and also discarding the Crushing Hammer. Really what you want to utilize Tag Switch for in this matchup. We haven't really seen it utilized very much, but it's usually going to be to Tag Switch energies onto a Mewtwo and Mew. I think we saw that in game number 2, actually. But since you're going to go ahead and electrify to the Mewtwo and Mew, it's actually a little bit harder to get value from the Tag Switch, and you know you can always get potential value from a Crushing Hammer. as we are going to see the Crushing Hammer played on Jeremy's side. Just going to go ahead and discard that energy. Huge heads hit, and it's unfortunate Jeremy can only attach a Lightning Energy to the Dedenne GX, but is able to find the Boltund here, will still be able to use the Tapu Koko's Dance of the Ancients, and will at least get off an Electrify on this turn.
Yeah, able to get some energies into play. Definitely important. Not being able to utilize the full effect of it, but you need to at least put on some sort of pressure. And we are going to see the Team Yellgrunt put that energy back into the hand here for David, as there is the Electrify. So Jeremy was able to remove 2 energy out of play, right? This Mewtwo Mew now has no energy cards onto it. So this is where things are going to get scary. It feels like Jeremy was able to put the pressure back onto David, as that is a Crushing Hammer heads. So just like that, it felt like Jeremy was able to threaten a knockout onto the opposing Mewtwo Mew. Not going to be possible anymore, Chip, because Jeremy had to use that Tapu Koko Prism Star the following turn. It is a back and forth between both of these players, right? It felt like David was in the driver's seat. Then Jeremy had an excellent play the following turn, and now he's back on David, right? This Mewtwo Mew on Jeremy's side will not be threatening and attack the following turn, so this is where David can start to run with things again. There we see the attachment onto that Mewtwo Mew. Gonna repeat the same turn. There's the Electrify. Gonna throw 2 Lightning Energy onto that bench Mewtwo Mew, and this is where things are gonna get tricky for Jeremy. Jeremy needs to find a way to put some sort of pressure on, but another poor top deck and Air Balloon. It seems draws are not going the way for Jeremy here. What can he do? Just Electrify?
I think that's what you have to do, and at this point, you are just hoping that your opponent does not find a Boss's Orders. If they can find a Boss's Orders and just take a one-hit KO on your Mewtwo and Mew, even accelerating all the energies with Full Blitz to the active, I mean, David is 2 turns away from winning potentially here. All you have to do is go, knock out the Mewtwo and Mew with your own Mewtwo and Mew, and then put all the energies with Full Blitz onto that active Mewtwo and Mew, so you can just tag bolt, knocking out both the Boltund and the Dedenne on the next turn. As we see Jeremy actually go for a super interesting play here of Boss's Orders, bringing up that Tapu Koko Prism Star, meaning that's not going to be a energy recovery option for David at any point in this game.
But this is going to be big. If David finds the Boss's Orders, this is going to be a big swing of tempo in David's favor. As looking through the deck, it is interesting to note 2 Boss's Orders are prized. So this is where that can definitely hurt David. It looks like going to go ahead and commit that Lightning Energy. It was very interesting to see David. I don't know if he had Lightning Energy in the discard pile to utilize Tapu Koko, but you usually want to utilize that as he finds the Boss's Orders in the deck. That is huge. We'll be able to go ahead and take the knockout on to that Mewtwo Mew. Can also reset something like the Phantom Waves as double Crushing Hammer in heads too. This is feeling like a big turn here for David. Is able to go ahead and reset that Speed Lightning Energy off of the Dedenne. There's the Crushing Hammer heads too. We'll see if the second one hits heads as well. Here we go. Does not, but this is such a solid position. There we go. Boss's Orders is going to go ahead and bring that Mewtwo and Mew into play. Full Blitz will be able to take the knockout, and it feels like David has put together the pieces of cards to get himself in an excellent position.
Are these going on the active here? Are these going on the active? Are we going for the tag bolt next turn?
I think so. There's no way for this Mewtwo and Mew to be knocked out the following turn. That could just secure the game as long as Jeremy doesn't
always full send. Here we go. All 3 energies going on to the active.
Wow, and look at that. David even finding one of those Boss's Orders off the prizes, as well as that Raichu and a Alolan Raichu. Jeremy has got to put something together. Another poor top deck. I don't think there's anything that Jeremy can do. Can at least reset Stamp the hand down, but there's nothing you can, Boss's Orders stall up a Pokemon in the active, but all David needs is an energy card or he's switching out, and we see David has the switching out in hand, so this is going to be big. Jeremy, I don't think there's any out.
Yeah, I think Jeremy's win condition at this point is to bring up a Dedenne or, Crobat, Boltund, whatever it may be. Actually, the Boltund has 2 energies on it, so it has to be either Dedenne or the Crobat. You have to go for the Electrify, and you have to hope your opponent does not have a switch card. And then you need to be able to top deck something next turn so that you can go Boss's Orders that Mewtwo that has 6 energies on it. But we know that David has the switch card in hand. Mewtwo and Mew will come up and copy that Tag Bolt GX attack, dealing 200 to the active Boltund Consultant, 170 damage to that bench to Dene GX in order to take those final 3 prize cards.
What an excellent set between both of these players. David was able to clutch it out and win that set in game number 5. As he said, advancing to grand finals. Will go ahead and have one more chance, right? It's so close to being able to become your Players Cup 3 global champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Very well played by David, able to capitalize on the poor start of Jeremy, like we said. You hate to see it as Jeremy, but Jeremy is definitely not...